Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast. I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Alan Adamson, and Alan is super excited to have you on the show.
Gresh, thanks for inviting me. I'm looking forward to talking.
Yeah, it's definitely to invite really awesome people, and Alan's doing so many phenomenal things. So I wanted to read a little bit more about him so you can hear about some of those awesome things that he's doing. And Alan is a noted industry expert in all disciplines of branding. He is a co founder and managing partner at Elite Marketing Collective Metaforce. Alan's newest book, Seeing the How Achieving Market Advantage by Transforming the Stuff We Do, Not the Stuff We Buy, focuses on the consumer experience as a competitive advantage and how this change in perspective has allowed companies to achieve dramatic growth and categorical leadership. This book's driving idea was sparked by Alan's recognition that experience transformation has been fast outpacing product transformation as a winning and sustainable marketing strategy. His previous book, Brand Simple, Brand Digital, The Edge 50 Tips from Brands That Lead and Shift Ahead, are used as textbooks in higher education business programs across the country. And Alan has loads and loads of experience and knowledge, and you'll hear a lot about this from branding. He's worked at brands such as Ogilvy, Unilever, and he's also an agile professor as well too. So I truly appreciate him paying things forward as he's going to do today. And of course, I love more than anything else the concept in his book. I think it's so transformational in terms of understanding what experience disruption is and how that could really benefit us as CEOs, entrepreneurs, and business owners. So, Alan, thank you so much again for being on the show. Are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
Yeah, with that introduction, I should probably just end it right here. It's all going to be downhill, right?
There you go. No, you just dropped the mic from here. So, to kind of kick everything off, I wanted to rewind the clock a little bit, hear a little bit more on how you got started, what I call your CEO story.
Yeah, I was going to be a filmmaker. I liked doing photography and film, which is about telling stories. But I realized that to succeed, you, as in many things, you have to be very talented, and you also have to be lucky. But you typically in the film business, creative businesses, you have to starve for a few years. So, but what I liked about it was when you think about movies, it's actually I never got into it this way. You can put the same actor, the same screenwriter, and the same cast in one movie, and it's a big hit. And you put them together again, and it's going to fail. And so that got me interested in the notion that lots of business problems, you just can't somebody say, Gresh, what do you want? You'll say, I want a blue shirt. And I give you a blue shirt, and you go, not really. And so it's not a linear business. You just can't ask the customer what they want. You have to sort of think for them a bit and be really good at observation and have a little bit of, if you remember the old TV show Seinfeld, a little bit of Jerry Seinfeld. You ever wonder why Gresh wears white shirts? Yeah, but you have to think about that because brands and businesses are solving people's problems. And if you ask them what problem they have, they say, oh, I'm good, I'm fine. So, yeah, so that got me started in this journey of trying to solve what I call nonlinear problems, problems where you can't add up and say 62% of people want white shirts, so I'm going to make a white shirt. And then you find out there are 20 white shirts on the rack, and you can't tell the difference in one white shirt and the other. So I like thinking about how to solve problems that you just can't add up and, oh, it's 52 here and 48 here, so that's the answer.
Nice. I absolutely love that. And I thought about everything when I was, reading all the your parts of your book and then really thinking and hearing about all the things that you do, that it didn't really seem like it were like those linear problems, as you said so well, where it was things that I think sometimes people can miss because they're not really thinking about them and they're not necessarily 1 + 1 = 2, which is I think what you were getting at.
Yeah, and a lot of it is watching what people do and saying, gee, that's strange. Why do they always do it this way? And everyone does it that way. And when you're following a herd, it feels pretty normal. When you have crummy wallpaper in your house, it looks okay to you until somebody comes in and says, hey, dude, that avocado wallpaper went out years ago. It looks okay to me. You just don't notice it because we're such creatures of habit.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that's where that disruption happens because, correct me if I'm wrong, with you, studying so many brands and working and having that experience, it almost thinks that we take things for granted. And when you're really trying to make change and be disruptive, as I talked about in your bio, you really have to look at those habits of people and how they could be disruptive or change, or maybe even how they already are changing. We're just not kind of solving those problems.
Exactly, exactly. And the other point is that for years we were very focused on trying to invent a new product. Hey, look at this new phone, its screen is a little better, or this case is a little better. And that's okay if you have something meaningful, but as you walk down any supermarket shelf or any store, trying to figure out the difference between one ketchup and the other, one smartphone and the other, you're going to have to, read the fine print, and it's really hard. And uh, part of it is zooming out and say, even if you come up with a better mousetrap, the time till I have this better phone and then Grish, you invent a better one, is shrinking. And so you have to zoom out and say, well, how can I make this life easier for people? And I'm just holding this up now as a silly example, but um, Apple, for years has done great things on the phone, but they put this little thing on the back. I didn't plan on talking about this little magnet, and if like you're like most people, you're not taking a wallet anymore. You're just carrying your phone, and maybe you want to, clip your license on here, and maybe a $10 bill in case you find somebody who doesn't take, you know, e-payments. But so that little magnet is more important. But if you ask somebody, what do you want in a phone? They would say, oh, better battery life, better screen, maybe waterproof. They wouldn't have suggested, hey, could you put a magnet in the back so I could stick my license and my idea on the back. And that's part of what intrigues me about marketing. If you could get to that point and say, whatever you're making, whether you're coming up with a new sweatshirt, a new service, um, look at people and say, gee, I could do what everyone else is doing, but how can I solve a problem that Gresh doesn't even know he has yet?
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of this Wayne Gretzky quote I talk about a lot, in marketing, where he says he doesn't skate to where the puck is; skates to where the puck's going to be. And it kind of sounds like what you're alluding to is just like sometimes being so dialed into, I guess, the habits and what people are thinking about and what are keeping them up at night potentially, that you solve that problem without they even know what that product is.
Exactly, and that's a great mantra. It's also incredibly hard to do because predicting the future is. I can say that, oh yes, the next phone is going to be a longer battery, but there's always something that's around the corner that you don't expect. But in general, it's sort of like driving a car. If I taught my kids how to drive a couple of years ago. If you're looking right in front of your wheel at the where you're going, you got to look down the road, because if you're looking right in front, you can't react fast enough. And the same in business. Don't look at your competitors across the street and your buddies, what they're doing. Try to try to see a little further. It's hard, uh, because sometimes you could be too far ahead and you're saying that's ridiculous. But you're better off being a bit ahead than launching a business that, oh, that was so yesterday, Alan. I
Yeah,
have 10 of those in the
absolutely.
closet. I don't need any more.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, you rather be on time or early rather than, late, especially when it relates to business. So I imagine that's a lot of what you've done for your clients. So what I wanted to do was kind of drill down a little bit more, hear how you work with your clients, and also hear and get a little bit of a more of a peek into your book and what you're talking about there.
Terrific. So, one of the things that people get in the habit of doing, sort of like the beginning of our conversation, is they try to do a lot of things. Oh, I got a website, and I have a nice picture of myself on a website, and I have some nice points as to why you should, work with me, and then I have a nice way of presenting, but they think there's a check the box. I do a little of this, a little of this, little, but in the world we live in today, very much social media or word of mouth or word of eye, what you see online with Instagram or whatever, drives, and no one shares ordinary. No one's going to say it was an ordinary website. Griff had a nice white shirt on. Yeah, Gresh had a nice white shirt on. Sorry, and you have to do a few things extraordinarily well rather than do 10 things just okay. So if you're in business, think about what you're doing. and you have to do everything sort of averagely, but pick a few things that you can do to get people to go, wow, that's different. One or two, you're better off doing one or two things great than trying to do everything very good. Because in a world where everyone does everything sort of okay, no one's going to, if I take a plane to Washington and it arrives sort of on time, they don't lose my baggage, I won't say anything. But if they, of course, if they, the pilot gets lost and lands in, Atlanta, I'll tell people. Or if they do something extraordinary, they got there late, but when I got there, they gave me a free Uber pass so I could get a car fast. You have to do something more than the customer expects. Otherwise, no one's going to tell you, I bought a new, went to a new coffee place down the street and it was just okay.
Yeah, that makes so much. Yeah, nobody, that doesn't make the dent or make the impact as much as it could. And so I guess when you were sitting down and you work with your clients and in your agency and your firm, you are definitely like having those conversations on like how to not just, I guess, paint a picture of what it is that but how to really accelerate and showcase that as much as possible in the experience that they have for clients.
Yeah, there's sort of two pieces. One, we sort of map out how do you get business. You do something to network. You get a meeting. You talk about what you can do. You write a proposal. You give a product. Find the points of touch that you have, and then say, all right, these are the which point of touch could I do somewhat differently? Could I deliver the product? Could I let them try it for a week? But try to don't try to change everything, but try to pick a few points of touch. And the other thing we do is that when I ask people, what are you good at? Most people say the same thing. I'm good at a lot of things. I'm good at this. I'm good at that. Yeah. Or can you do that too? And oh yeah, I can do that too. But to get things done, you don't want a general contractor doing everything in the house. You want the plumber doing the plumbing, the electrician just like years ago, when Verizon first got into the home internet business, I was working with them, and they said, "Oh, we can do it all. We can, we're going to put the fiber optics in the home." And I was at my house, and the guy was downstairs, and he put the fiber optics in, and then he came upstairs in his work boots after digging a trench in my backyard. He says, "Now I'm just going to I'm just going to reprogram your computer here to set." And the notion that the same person who was digging the trench was going to touch my computer, even though I'm sure he was well qualified, I just didn't. So part of what we try to do is say, look, once you determine where you want to win, we pick a team that has a few experts, because if you're good at everything, you're going to be average at everything. Like everything in life, if you want to do something really well, you want to find somebody who's done it 100 times, not somebody who's watched a YouTube video and says, "Oh, I can do this too." Whether it's building a website or doing an ad or writing a proposal or making a product, or I'll deliver it on time. And that's not, if you look at how companies succeed, it's usually not on the best idea. I worked with FedEx for years. Lots of people said, "Oh, we'll deliver your package." They were really good at delivering it, and they made the promise, if you want absolute certainty that if I put this in somebody's hand, it's going to be somewhere else in 48 hours. You know, Post office can say, "Oh, I deliver stuff too," and so it's better to be great at one thing than okay at five.
That's so powerful. Yeah, it's very hard to do, I imagine. But I think and it sounds like when you become excellent at the thing that you do, whatever you as an individual or imagine that your brand decides that you are going to kind of hang your hat on and say, this is what we do best. In order to reach excellence, you probably have to really spend as much time, energy, and resources that you can at that to really kind of break through the noise.
Right,
Do you
and
find that?
focus on what you're good at as a leader too. To talk, I was a better creative thinker, not so great with like, here are the 12 steps you need to do to get from this great idea to something happening. So you need to be self-aware. I tended to surround myself with people that were good at the things that, or great at the things that I was just okay at. And if I think about the things that helped me succeed most, it was putting together teams or having a team around me that allowed me to focus on my strength, but surrounded it, because no one wins in business with I got a great idea for an ice cream. You have to get all the way from here's the idea to it's really great tasting and it's not melting when I give it to you and it's at the right location. In other words, there are lots of parts to that journey. Um, and execution is more important than the idea. And we're thinking about where you sit with your business and saying, great idea, good team, but how do we make sure we execute well? Because lots of businesses have the same. When the iPad first came out years ago, there were a lot of iPads. There was HP had one, Microsoft. But they had to get everything right to win the race, and the same is true in business.
Yeah, that's so powerful, and I love that example. It's funny when I was reading, parts of your book and listening to some of your interviews, that was the company that actually stuck out to me was Apple because I was thinking, think differently. I was thinking especially of iTunes and how that was not necessarily different from anything, but it just was the way that it was executed, for lack of a better term, and that experience, which I know is so powerful to what you talk about, and also I think a big part of your book as well too. So that's what really kind of stuck to me is that we're trying to be great at 100 things, but really trying to find those one or two things that we can hang our hat on. That's really what breaks through the noise.
Exactly. And the key part of the book was always that when I started in marketing and business, it was very product focused. They gave you, here's a new pen, now go tell people they have to buy it. And you're just looking at the product and saying, well, it's black and it feels good. And there are many ways you can make this pen differently, but ultimately, if you can zoom out and say, how are people going to use this pen? Are some going to want to mark boxes with it? Or some going to want to drop it or figure out how it fits in someone's life and then figure out how to talk about the pen, not just say, well, this is a great pen. Look at that design. It's really sleek and you're going to want this. And even though I'm being silly with a pen example, no matter what you're selling, yes, if you have a better product, tell people, but you're not going to have a better product for that long before three people have a similar product. So the sooner you figure out how it fits in someone's life and where you can really win in that journey from the design of it to the cost of it to where you can pick it up to the biggest one today is customer service. No one wants to. Yeah, more and more stuff is complicated, and people just want easy. And if you have to read a 15-page instruction booklet as to how to use this pen, even if you do it in big type, you're not going to get a lot of people happy with that. But if I can call you up and say, look, I don't have time, can you just send me a quick video of how to use this pen? You'll be a happier camper with
Yeah.
your customers.
Yeah, everybody would definitely be happier. And I love that question. And you're just asking, like, where can you win? And then, how is this going to improve their lives and really make that impact? Do you think that because of technology and because of the rapid increase in technology and how things are improving and coming out and launching so rapidly, do you think that's kind of resulted in the shift away from the product and really made people have to step back and
Yeah,
say,
I think
okay,
it's
how are we looking
happened
at
in
that experience?
technology. Every field, but because change is happening so fast, you can't say, "Oh, look at this great new product," because by the time you launch it, people say, "Oh, that was last year's product. What do you have?" So, but if you figure out how to fit into people's lives, you'll be looking at a bigger problem, and people will use you a longer term. I mean, I don't want to go back to Apple, but since you brought it up, you know, you know, because they win so well on the customer experience. If your phone breaks or you can't work it, with other companies you have to call up and then maybe they'll talk to you. But with Apple, you can go to the Genius Bar and you can have somebody in a blue shirt tell you, "Well, Alan, of course it's not working. You look what you're doing here. You're pushing this button." So ultimately, figure out where you're going to win, and then just stick to it.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I absolutely love it. Do you feel like that's part of your secret sauce? The thing that you feel like either makes your organization, yourself, or a combination of both unique? Is it that ability to be able to take a step back and understand that it's really about that experience and be able to kind of get that out of the clients that you work with?
Yeah, I think part of it is having what I like to talk fresh eyes. When you go to people working in a beer company, they're all experts on beer. Oh, this is what it takes. Uh, but they've been in the beer business for a long time, and sometimes you need a bit of that. Do you ever think about doing it this way? No, this is the way we do it. So part of it is fresh eyes. Uh, Part of it is, you know, pushing the team to, yes, these are all true things. The customer said they want white shirts on Tuesday delivered to their door, but let's figure out which one can you really do well, and maybe there's a new point of touch that no one else is talking about that doesn't seem important. I'll give you a quick example. Every online retailer says, oh, if you don't like it, just mail it back. And you print out a label and mail it back. And I was visiting my daughter at university a couple of years ago, and I went to her dorm, and it looked like a warehouse of shipping and receiving. There's so many boxes, and I say, well, what are all these boxes? They go, well, we don't have printers. We don't have time to go to the post office. So even though it's easy for most adults to print a label and take it to the UPS store. So somebody came up with a group came up with it saying, we're going to pick up your boxes. We'll do the label for you. We'll return it. And then we'll just email you. And, so just observe that, because even though every marketer said, this is the way you do returns online, some people are realizing that that's okay for people that have a printer or have the time or even know where a post office is. But there's certain groups of the population that, you know, who that's too much of a hassle for. And of course, if you get a lot of packages, it's easy to do for 1 or 2 a week. But as most of us learned during the pandemic, if you're doing that for 25 boxes a week, that's less fun.
Absolutely, and that's where that business that probably really shined. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So it could be like an app, a book, or a habit that you have, or something from your book. But what do you feel like something that makes you more effective and efficient?
Um, you know, it's understanding how you get organized and focusing when you can focus. So for me, I tend to be better in the morning in terms of focus, and better in the afternoon in terms of talking. And so I try to get my reading done, when I first get into my desk in the morning, but from 8 to 10. And I try not to schedule any really long meetings from 2 to 4, because I know if I'm in a conference room, so get to know where your personal strengths are and try to stack the deck, sort of to give you that chance is one easy one, because everyone has different skills. And then listening is the hardest thing to do. And the better you listen, the better you'll learn. And figure out your listening style, or when or how you can listen better. And it could be that you have to listen, you have to remove, I turn my phone over. I don't want things in front of me. I don't want beeping. I want to have the person. I'm better on Zoom than on a phone call, because all of a sudden I'm wandering. So figure out how you can stack the deck to make you a better listener, because the people that listen really well tend to do, because if you have lots of people working with you and you're not listening to them, you don't have to read a book on management and people say, "Oh, I'm not going to talk to Alan anymore. He's constantly checking his texting and he's flipping through his phone. Yeah, what do you want? So you got to understand that part of being successful in business is being a good listener and a good observer of people being stressed out, people being confused. You tell somebody, I think you should do A, B, and C, and if you get a space cadet look, you need to say, yeah, what maybe I wasn't clear. Let's rephrase it. What do you think about doing A, B, and C? So, or do you have a
Yeah.
better idea?
Right. And I feel like that aligns with everything we've been talking about, because I think it's listening to, of course, listening is different from hearing, because a lot of times we can hear, but actually listening is a lot what you were talking about. Is like you create a solution that sometimes people don't even know that they need, because you're listening so well, you realize that the solution may not even exist.
And the final one is, I wrote a whole book on this, is less is more. If you have something to tell, if you have to tell something, customer something important, and it takes you 15 minutes to tell them the story, you're over. People listen in sound bites. So often it's better to say, look, I'm going to try to make 3 points in this meeting. you know, A, B, C. And if you can't get that 3 points in a sentence each, you're already in trouble. If you have to say, first we're going to do this, and then I think you have to do this, and by the time you're on point five, even if the person's looking at you, their brain has switched channels.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
kind
So
of
getting simple
reminds
is
me.
hard, but keep it simple because great execution happens when you understand. FedEx can deliver packages because every employee knows I need to deliver absolute certainty. That means, I don't know. That means if I have to swim across a lake to get the package, that's what they want. I don't have to read the instruction book to say what happens if I drop the box in the lake. I know I have to go get it and swim across.
Yeah, that's so powerful, and that's like this William Shakespeare quote is like, "If I had more time, I would have wrote a shorter letter." Where you actually work harder and harder, harder, actually lets you be more specific.
Homework matters. So don't
Mm.
ever do a meeting where you haven't rehearsed it, even if you have to talk into your phone and do a dry run. Because the more you, when you're going for a job interview or going to sell a product or service, the more you practice it, you don't want to make your most important meeting something you wing as you're driving into the office or into work.
Absolutely. So you might have already right. Yeah. So you might have touched on this, but what would you consider to be what I call a CEO nugget? So it's a little bit more word of wisdom or piece of advice. And I usually say it might be something if you were to hop into a time machine, you might tell your younger business self.
It's don't be afraid to be wrong. If you're too nervous to say, well, I can't say this because it's too crazy an idea, or people may think, I'm not really, but, successful business always involves risk. And you have to be, if you're playing it safe the whole time, well, maybe I'll do this and maybe they will like this or she'll like, you have to, what's the worst? You're wrong. And you have to be comfortable being wrong. Because if you don't have a clear point of view, then it's hard to be a great leader if you don't have people will say, you're wrong, Alan, but I'll say, I think we need to do A, B, and C, and here's why. What do you guys think? As opposed to, well, I was thinking about A, but B could be a good idea too, and maybe C is all right, but let's talk about it. And, you'll get people saying, well, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, especially, we talked a little bit about leadership earlier. I feel like that attracts people as far as like leadership and somebody saying that, hey, we're going to do, A. And, if you get to, the road and you realize that A maybe isn't right, you pivot, but you make a strong pivot. You don't say, well, I think we should do this. We should probably keep going. I think that also is a really strong leadership trait as well, too.
Right. And yeah, just be comfortable. If you always want to have people, and the other thing is have people around you that are comfortable saying disagreeing with you. Never surround yourself with a bunch of people that say, "Gresh, you're great. Yeah, let's do that. Let's run off the lake. I know it's 12 degrees outside, but let's go do it. Yeah, because I want to be a real team player. You need people around you say, well, thank you for sharing that idea, but here's why I don't think it's right. They don't have to call you uh, bad names, but they have to be comfortable saying, I disagree with that. And let me tell you why. Because diversity of thinking gets ideas better. And if everyone says, oh, yeah, that's the right way to go, many, many things in life go wrong. If you have everyone coming from the same background, drinking the same Kool-Aid, saying the same thing. And then, of course, when the car goes off the cliff, people say, I could have told you the road was going to end there. You didn't ask me. I thought you knew that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's much that comes from iron sharpening iron when you're able to kind of, lean into that. And I absolutely, appreciate that part where, you start to surround yourself, like you talked about having those multifaceted talents where my talent's not your talent, but also having those different perspectives also
Really important in
plays a really
marketing.
part.
Get people don't hire people that came from the same school you went to, the same neighborhood, dressed the same as you. Try to put a team around you that look at the world a little differently. Because part of success is having, a wide angle lens or peripheral vision. Because you need to see what's going on, and if everyone went to the same school, drinks the same beer, hangs at the same bar, does dresses, you're going to get one you're going to get a little bit of tunnel vision, which is not good when you're trying to lead an organization to do new things.
Absolutely. Anytime you're talking about innovation and disruption, you definitely need those kind of disparate thoughts because it allows that iron to sharpen, and it allows you to, as a leader and as an organization, to get so much better. So now I wanted to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So Alan, what does being a CEO mean to you?
It means it means enjoying trying things you've never done before. Because the only thing for sure in business is everything changes every day. You know, Murphy's law happens, and what you thought was going to happen in a day, you walk in, and all of a sudden, three people quit. The water pipe breaks. You know, something's going, and so you just have to be comfortable with uncertainty in your life, and not get and enjoy it. If you hate it, if you hate knowing exactly what you need to do every day, not knowing. But you want to know at 9 o'clock, I'm going to read my emails. At 11 o'clock, I'm going to go to a meeting. At 12 o'clock, I'm going to go to, you know, it's, that's not the life. Then there are many jobs like that. But usually the CEO, I go in and I think I was going to do three things, and a client will call, and you have to be ready for constant fire drills.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And the saying is, be comfortable being uncomfortable. And a lot of times, because change always happens, I think we see that in business, but we also see that in life as a whole. As much as we think everything's going to be scripted and go as is, about 3 or so years ago, we saw that there was something that completely changed
No one
everybody's
had
life.
that in their business plan. I'm going to work from home starting Tuesday, and I'll have to learn how to use my video conferencing feature on the computer. I never really paid attention to.
Exactly. Or there'd be a lot of Zoom millionaires, I tell you that. Well, Alan, truly appreciate that definition. Of course, I appreciate your time even more. So, what I wanted to do now was pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you can let our readers and listeners know. And of course, how best they can get a hold of you, get a copy of your books, and find out about all the awesome things you and your team are working on.
No, I think we covered everything. They can get a hold of me by, you know, there's search engines, and AI will make it easier. Look me up, either Alan Adamson or Alan Adamson, Alan at metaforce.com. And my books are available in something called a bookstore, which used to exist in many neighborhoods, but also if you double click on many sites. So it's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, it's been absolutely awesome. And to make it even easier, we're going to have links below. So you can click that link. You can kind of visit the virtual bookstore called Amazon as well, too. So you can definitely get a copy of your books and all the awesome things, too. So, Alan, truly appreciate you so much. Love all the impact that you have. I love especially you talking about like how important it is to kind of get away from the product and think more about the experience and how we can make a huge impact there, because we all have those experiences and we all can make an impact in such a great way. So thank you so much, my friend. And I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
You too. Thanks for inviting me.